So what is the secret to learning, understanding, and using scales? Do we need to learn them? Let's talk about it. All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about a very common hurdle for people, and that is understanding and why and how to use scales. I had someone put in one of the videos I did in the comments, one of their biggest hurdles was understanding scales and how to use them. Now, first of all, I want you to think about scales as just simply the language that we use, a way to organize the notes and the music and the way for everyone to kind of be on the same page and understanding each other musically. But with scales, what I want to do today is just talk about very small details that I think are going to help you understand them quicker versus trying to learn all the scales. Now, don't get me wrong, there's many ways to learn music and whatever works for you best. I find that sometimes you have to go in all these different directions for the music theory to kind of come together. But what I want you to think about today, we're just going to focus on the major scale, right? Now, why the major scale? Because most of the music you're going to be playing is derived from the major tonality. Now, that can be confusing because you're thinking, well, wait a minute, there's minor chords and there's dominant chords and there's, diminished chords. Well, those chords are all derived from the major scale. Now, there are other types of music. There's other more sophisticated chords and stuff like that and different scales. But right now, I think it's more important that we focus on the major scale. The other reason we're going to focus on the major scale right now is to get to the concept of intervals rather than thinking just about like all these different scales that we have to learn. If we understand what makes something major, what makes a major scale, and then if we understand and start targeting or identifying the degrees of each scale or what those intervals are. Okay, so what I mean, right? A major scale, we could do this anywhere on the neck. I'm just going to do it from good old G here, 3rd fret, just because I think it's easier to see, a little bit easier to play, right? And we can get into it. But you have a couple ways, right, of visualizing this scale. Now, if you just did it on one string, way easier to visualize, right? Because your frets, each fret's a half step, yeah? And so a major scale is always a whole step, half step, whole, half, right? So if I played it on one string here and we did it from G, right? We would go up a whole step, then another whole step, then we just do a half step there, and then we just do another whole step, another whole step, another whole step, and then a half step at the end to get to that, sorry, I biffed it there, that G, right? The next G, the higher G, or we call the octave, okay? So that's visualizing on one string. And there's many ways to play your major scales. In fact, I did a video on just playing it on 2 strings, right? Which I think is just another way to help you visualize the neck and the scale. But I'm going to do it a very common shape that you see in just a 4 fret distance here. And it covers over 3 strings if we just play those 8 notes. So here I'm playing the first note, that G again, but with my 2nd finger, and the 2nd note with my 4th finger, right? That's still a whole step. Now, instead of going up the string, I'm playing the B on the A string on the 2nd fret. Okay, then a half step from there is C. I'm using my 2nd finger on that same string, my 4th finger on the same string to get to the 5th. Then I'm jumping up to the D string, playing the 1st finger on that 2nd fret. Or sometimes I use 2nd, sometimes I use 3rd finger, and then 4th finger. Okay, very, very common shape. Important that you get that into your hands, right? Especially if you're beginners, just trying to get that feel, being able to skip the strings, okay? But what we want to talk about today are intervals, right? So we want to start numbering these notes versus, I think you should learn your theory, right? Understand like how many sharps and flats make a major scale, et cetera, et cetera. But right now we're going to just talk about the degrees of the scale and how they create the language of music that we can talk with each other. And by the way, guys, I have down in the description a free PDF for you, especially for beginners, but even intermediate players. Just a quick little guide on helping you get over mental obstacles that really common ones that people have, like theory, like understanding theory and how to get in their way from enjoying the bass. So click the link below. Also, it'll give you access to our new online group called the Bass Corner. It's free. Everything's free. Okay, anyways, so now let's look at this, right? So we've got the root is the common term, right? Or the one. Root, one, sometimes the tonic, but most people will say, okay, here's our root. Then there's our second. There's our third, which is a major third. There's our fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and then back to the root or the octave, right? Same note, just higher or lower. Okay, now where it can get confusing sometimes though is that you'll hear not all the terminology is necessarily across the board. So like for example, the third is a real important note, right? Right away, that distinguishes whether we're playing a minor or a major chord, because if we flatten that third, that's now a minor third, and that changes the tonality. But once we kind of understand, oh yeah, there's the root, there's the third, someone could say, play a minor third. Oh, okay, minor third, right? There's the root, there's the fourth, play a sharp four. Ah, there's the sharp four, right? Sharp is just up a half step, flat is just down a half step. So right there you can almost just start, once you understand these shapes and once you understand that relationship from string to string, you can start to talk that language of intervals, of chords, okay? So there's our root, there's our second, our major third, our perfect fourth or natural fourth is what you usually hear. Perfect fifth, I don't really hear it called major fifth too many times, it's just natural fifth. A major sixth, major seventh, and then the octave. So start to get that into your mind, the intervals, the degrees of the scale. So now when we talk about chords, chords are built out of each scale, okay? And generally the way a simple way to think about chords, the way they're derived from the scale, it's every other note starts to build our chord. Okay, so the very first chord that we would get would just be a two-note chord, right? And I'm not going to strum the chord like a piano might or guitar, although we can on the bass, but we do what's called arpeggiate the chord. We usually are playing them separately, not always. But anyways, if we look at it in just terms of each interval, we have our root. We're going to skip the second and play the major third, right? Then we skip the four and we play the fifth. Root, third, fifth. Well, right there you have the foundational elements of a chord, and I lied, I said I was going to do a two-note chord, but I'm just going to show you the triad, right? So triad meaning three. So there, right, we're pulling out every other note. If we were to keep going with this formula, there's our third, fifth, we skip the sixth, now we're playing the major seventh. So now we have a major seven chord. Okay, so this is kind of what I want you to just think about today is numbering the scale, root, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, root. Then pulling out every other note, root, third, fifth, seventh, fifth, third, root. You're playing a chord now, a major seven chord, okay? And then to give you the idea of understanding the intervals, let's say I played that root, that major third, that fifth, but I play a flat seven. We are now playing what's called a dominant seven chord, right? So it gives its own name, but it's still from G. There's our major seven chord. There's our dominant seven chord. What if I played, instead of a major third, a minor third? Root, minor third. Now this could be hard on your hands. You could either do it with an open string or you can slide it up, okay? Or I could go minor third there. So obviously there's more shapes. Now we're playing a minor seven chord. See what I mean? So starting with major scale, getting the degrees, getting the intervals, then pulling out every other note. Now you're playing chords, okay? And then understanding how you can change sharp or flat some of those intervals. I mean, if you sharp the 7, then all you're doing is playing the octave, right? But these are your common chords that you'll hear. Major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, okay? And then, you know, that's a flat 5. You see what I did there? Instead of playing natural 5, flat 5, half diminished chord. Those are the words, right? So, but don't get too crazy with that now. I think if you just focus on this major scale and understanding intervals, then we can start talking that language of different scales and different chords from anywhere on the neck, okay? And that's what I want you to kind of start to understand today. All right, guys, so hope that gives you some insight. Obviously, there's way more we can go with this. We got, you know, and by the way, if you want to get more into this and have a community of folks to kind of bounce ideas off of and get some more courses, get some more lessons, join the Bass Corner. I put the link in the description. I'll also send you that free PDF guide on tips to help you, you know, just get your mind straight, right? And get into your practice and get your groove on, right? So anyways, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Let me know if this helps. Let me know if you have any other questions. I'll see you in the next video.